Welcome to Body Buddies, home of the Power Foods lifestyle. Take it one meal, one workout, one day at a time. And now, here's the founder of Body Buddies, Kristy Jo.
Welcome to the Body Buddies podcast. I'm Kristy Jo, mind and body strategist, certified personal trainer, fitness nutrition specialist, and author of the Power Foods lifestyle. Today we're going to be talking about one of the most frequently asked questions, which is, what the heck are carbs and what do they do in our bodies? This actually goes a lot deeper than the simplistic answer, which is why we're going to be dedicating an entire podcast episode to this. So, first and foremost, if you have not yet read The Power Foods Lifestyle, you need to go get a copy of it for free. If you go to powerfoodslifestyle.com, you can download this. Or I'm sorry, not download, but you can get it for free. You just need to help with shipping. And as a bonus for getting this, because I need you to read this book, it is going to change your life. I also give you a digital copy so you can start reading immediately, as well as the audio version. I give you access to this live masterclass I taught on it. I give you so many resources and discounted recipe books. So I'd highly recommend not buying it on Amazon. And go the route of me giving you freebies. Okay, with that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. I am doing this live on Instagram right now, and so anybody who asks questions about carbohydrates during this time, I will be putting their questions in the queue, and I already did have some come from our Facebook group, Power Foods Lifestyle Champions. So those will be answered. Great questions about starches and elimination of sugar. But first and foremost, let's talk about the people who really need to be listening to this podcast, and especially this episode. If you know anybody who is suffering from arthritis, fibromyalgia, PCOS, hypothyroidism, Crohn's disease, menopause, pain in any shape of or form, people with cancer, tumors, etc., I highly recommend on a health level they listen to this. Now, if you are someone who is trying to work with your body composition, perhaps you've put on a little bit more body fat than you are thrilled about, this is going to be very insightful for you along the way. So I hope you will share this with anybody who may benefit. I do all of this for free. I support the podcast on my own. I don't even ask for donations. And so, I appreciate that's your best token of gratitude for this information I give for free is to share it as well as leave a review on iTunes. That helps me get to more people organically. All right, let's dive right in. What are carbohydrates? Carbohydrates are one of the three main classes of food and a source of energy. Sugars, starches, and fiber are all types of carbohydrates. Technically, carbohydrates are any compound containing carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen with twice as many hydrogens as oxygens. Carbohydrates are the main energy source for the body and the only direct energy source for the brain. Carbohydrates can be found in varying amounts in fruits, vegetables, grain foods, and many dairy products. Carbohydrates are also found in ingredients in many other foods prepared at home, eaten at a restaurant, or purchased at grocery stores. So now I'd like to turn to page 66 in the Power Foods Lifestyle and read to you two paragraphs that I find very interesting. Now, I am the author, so it's kind of fun to read my own writing. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Carbohydrates are not the bad guy. Rather, they're wonderful. Your body loves and needs them. Your incredible body was designed to utilize this macronutrient to help it function properly. This is Kristy's insert. Again, carbohydrates are your brain's number one fuel source. So let's just keep that in mind as I go into later deeper concepts that will challenge that. We have to first lay the foundation. Okay, back to the book. When you don't eat enough carbs, you may feel lethargic, irritable, and experience more significant cravings. For my dancers that are on the Instagram feed, when you don't eat carbohydrates in proper portion sizes in preparation for coming to dance and you're feeling like you have no energy, that can be a problem. It's also that we're not pairing it with other like protein-based foods to help stabilize that. Back to the book. This is your body sending you a signal that it needs fuel in the form of glucose, which comes primarily from carbs. Your central nervous system functions primarily on the power of carbs. When your brain stops receiving the glucose it needs to run efficiently, your neurons experience a crisis. As a result, you feel weak, spaced out, tired, and unable to focus. The technical name of this low blood sugar state is hypoglycemia. While your brain requires 2 times as much energy than other cells in your body, that doesn't mean you have license to eat muffins, breads, cookies, and chips all the time. We'll get to that, but first let's talk some science so you can understand the basic concept of blood sugar. After all, I really need you to start thinking of your body as hosting an environment and not working like a bank account. This shift in mindset will only happen as you open your mind to consider the science of blood sugar, insulin, and glucose. That's as deep into the science of it as we're going to get, but I do want to just kind of point this out. Whenever we eat carbohydrates, and I have my whiteboard, those of you listening to the podcast, I'm showing those who are viewing this live on Instagram. Whenever you eat food, our goal is to stabilize blood sugar. Blood sugar is going to impact your energy the most, as well as how much energy is going to your brain. So if you eat carbohydrates, that's going to break down to sugar, depending on the type of carbohydrate it is. If it's a simple carb, things like a Pop-Tart or a cookie or Captain Crunch. I had some on the table I was going to use as an example, but I had to come into the other room to film this and to record it. So anyhow, so Captain Crunch would be more like a simple carb versus like an apple with more soluble fiber, or quinoa or lentils, things with more fiber, again, those complex carbohydrates. Then that is going to break down to primarily glucose. Now, glucose is sugar. So that's the number one thing I need you guys to realize. Carbohydrates equals sugar. You have to think of it like that. And yes, if there's fiber in it, it's going to break down more slowly, but carbs equal sugar. So if you eat any carbohydrate-based food, your blood sugar is going to go up. Now, if you don't eat anything with it to stabilize it, your blood sugar will come down. Now, a lot of people who experience hypoglycemia, they can rapidly drop, and that can lead to dizzy spells, if not passing out. That when it happens, it's really scary, and your body's like, oh, I'm shutting down, I need something right now. So the key to helping stabilize that drop is P for protein. You want to be eating, if you're going to eat a carb, I need you to be eating a protein with it. Can you guys see that? Okay, so our goal, if you are going to be a carbohydrate eater, which I will just say right out the gate, if you are dealing with any autoimmune condition, any of the conditions I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, as well as working to get off some body fat, get more focus, more clarity, you're tired, you want more energy. If you are dealing with any of those things, I'm going to tell you straight out the gate, I need you on fewer carbs. And I need you to start replacing those carbs with fats and protein and vegetables. Okay? So if you choose to be a carbohydrate eater, which ectomorphs, people who are very tall, very lean in their muscle bellies, and they have very long bones, they are going to be our primary body type who is going to do better than other people on carbohydrates. But if that's the case, you have to be able to eat. My marker is like drying out. I need a different marker. You need to eat another meal to mitigate that downswing. You've got to catch the falling blood sugar, because if you let it go, then all of a sudden you're going to be ravenous coming in this meal. You have low blood sugar. You're going to probably overeat. And when you overeat, that surge of glucose is going to come in. Your body can only handle so much glucose at one time. My laundry's done. That's enough. Thank you. And so what happens, especially as we get older, your body doesn't have the receptivity to pull that glucose in and to send it to the brain or to use it for energy. Therefore, the only other place for it to go is to be stored as body fat. So it's really important that if you, again, choose to eat carbohydrates, you must follow the Power Foods lifestyle principle of eat it with a protein and a veggie. That is going to mitigate the offswing of what these carbs can do in your body. Now, again, let's remember my little thing that I say in every episode, which is there are exceptions to every rule. There's an asterisk after everything I explain that's going to be exceptions always apply. I teach general principles here out in the public, and then it's with my one-on-one clients or in my private 8-week challenges that I'm able to really dial in those principles per the population of the person I am dealing with or working with, and be able to specifically cater those principles to that person, because there is no perfect approach. And if you are still stuck in that mindset, I need you to take a step back and realize there are 7 billion people in this world, and there's no way on earth that we can all be following the same eating plan. With that said, there are some key principles that work primarily well for most people. And then again, it's a strategization of that. So let's now move into a question that was asked in Power Foods Lifestyle Champions. A woman asked, I made stuffed peppers tonight and I reached for the potatoes. We were out, thankfully, because as I reached for them, I remembered this is a healthy meal. Don't ruin it. Then I reached for the stovetop stuffing. Seriously, love this stuff. And again, I told myself, no, that's not healthy either. Okay, pause right there. Though that internal dialogue that this woman experienced, if she were my client, I would be very heavily asking her to reframe those sentences. I don't agree with the healthy nature of those sentences. It's, first of all, you're not ruining a meal by putting potatoes or stuffing with it. You need to look at the composition of the meal. And again, it's about the strategization, which you can only strategize if you know your goal. Is your goal to lose body fat? Is your goal to manage a condition? Is your goal to maintain your weight? Is your goal to have muscle gains? What is your goal? That is how we then take these general principles and cater them to what that specific goal is. So yeah, this is a healthy meal. Perhaps a better phrase would have been, this isn't in line with my strategy. In the Power Foods Lifestyle, I want you to get rid of good or bad and using those as labeling words. That dialogue is extremely important for our psychology and the emotional approach towards food. I know too much from working with so many people that if we look at food point blank, and we say, you know, this is just about optimality and good and bad. And if I don't eat perfectly, I'm a bad person and I chose a bad thing. Like, that is destroying our happiness when it comes to body composition, when it comes to enjoying food, as well as really maximizing what our bodies can do. So I would say it's not in line with my strategy. You're not ruining the meal. So then she reached for the stovetop stuffing. Seriously love stuff. I love all of those foods too. I then remembered I had a Caesar salad in the fridge and made that instead. So she made stuffed peppers tonight. So she had a veggie in the pepper, the stuffed, I don't know if it was my recipe. If it was, then it's just basically beef and some lentils and stuff. No, that's not, let's see. So then a Caesar salad is going to be iceberg lettuce, some darker greens, some tomatoes. What else? Oh, low battery. Better plug that in. Croutons, things like that. So a little bit of carbs, some veggies. I grew up thinking dinner always had to have a carb or starch as a side. Is this a learned unhealthy habit? P.S. I haven't made it through your book yet. I'm a slow reader when change is happening. And good. First of all, so happy she is reading the book. And I would rather someone move through the book slowly, because this is not a one-time read, you guys. There is just no way you can get this information in your head to combat this outrageously difficult world we live in regards to the food products out there, the convenience factor, and the problems our bodies are experiencing. So I highly encourage that. I would never compare this to the scriptures and scriptural text. But when it comes to important books for you to review again and again and again, I would say this is number one, particularly if you have a condition, if you are dealing with emotional triggers, binge eating, if you're dealing with body composition problems, you know, things like that. Anything that makes you feel unhappy or frustrated, or it consumes more than the energy you'd like it to in your life, that would be for you. Let me read this question. Do you regularly have indulgence meals? If, when you do you eat carbs during those times and just keep carbs out of most of your strategic meals? That's a fantastic question. So let me go through. There's so many possibilities of outcomes to that question. So do I personally regularly have indulgence meals? Oh, my computer's shutting down. Don't do that. Okay, we're good. Yes, absolutely. Unless I am in a phase where I am doing a more focused effort. So if I'm in a super, super focused effort and I'll usually go more like every 2 weeks. And my indulgence meals have changed over the past 5 years of me doing this. Indulgence meals, and those of you who are new to Power Foods Lifestyle, an indulgence meal is our replacement phrase for what the world typically calls cheat meals. I do not agree with that phrase. It's very negative. It instills in us a negative relationship with food, as if we are rebelling or doing something naughty. And unfortunately, this can program our subconscious to set us up for more of the yin yang, good, bad. We're either succeeding or failing. And that all or nothing thinking is what causes self sabotage in so many people who really want to make a change in their bodies. So, my indulgence meals have changed from like oh my gosh, I get all this food, because I don't feel that anymore. It's more like, oh, it was convenient because my family was going out to dinner, and sure, I'll enjoy some other food. It's like I have been able to reprogram the emotional attachment. I still love food, but it's not like this insane need or this frenzied feeling like that. Now, it used to be. So if you are still experiencing that, give it 1 to 2 years in the Power Foods lifestyle and just keep going, because that you will see that relationship change. Do I eat carbs during those times? Oh, absolutely. Now, if it depends though on what my strategy was. If I was in a dropped carb strategy, so a PVF strategy, I'm really trying to keep my carbohydrates down, then it is really important that you do not go ham on those carbs, because your body is not as carbohydrate sensitive. And so you can easily pack on some body fat and halt your body's focus, because if you've been basically training your body to function off fats for fuel, and then all of a sudden you switch it and you're like, JK, here's some carbs, your brain's like, wait, what? Confused. And it's like, what the? You can't do that to your body. So when you choose to go low carb, keto, any of those things, even carb cycling, I highly recommend. And I have, for different one-on-one clients, different numbers that they're like guidelines they need to stay in. Usually for females, on the high side, don't go over 100 grams of carbs in your like refeed or your indulgence. For men, 150, unless I have some pretty rigid cases where, like right now, I'm working with a woman who's preparing for a bikini competition, and she has hypothyroidism, and we had to build her metabolism for the past 4 months. I told her, honey, if you're serious about this, you have to accept that you're going to be a little fluffier than usual for these 4 months. And now she's finally got her metabolism roaring again. We're seeing the body fat come off. It's really exciting. But unfortunately, with her case of hypothyroidism, I cannot have her indulge in more than 40 grams of carbs at any given time. So for her, we have her eating basically a ketogenic approach, or in other words, a PVF approach. So all of her meals are protein, veggie, fat based. And then like once every 5 days, she can do that 40 grams of carbs. So she typically does a half cup of oats, and she likes to put a little bit of honey in it, and that usually brings her up to the 40 grams of carbs rule. So for most people, I would say if they're just doing lifestyle change, they don't need to really manage a condition. I'd say that's fine. Go to Olive Garden, have the breadsticks, have a piece of cake. Don't overdo it. You're going to be sick, and you don't want to deal with the negative repercussions, the emotional implications of feeling like, oh, I feel gross, and why did I do that? And there's some emotional barrage that can happen in there where you need to be extremely careful about that. And let me just say this really fast. The average, what I have seen working very closely with clients, is 3 months. 3 months of disciplined Power Foods lifestyle eating and strategy, and getting going again, getting going again, getting going again, that those indulgence meals turn from, let's be honest, a little bit of a binge into 3 months down the road, they're like, oh my gosh, I can control this. Like, I could put my fork down. I wasn't as attached to the food anymore. And you guys, you just have to realize this takes practice. And most people, this is why most of the world is so caught up in this dieting mentality, is because very few of people like me are really putting the correct information out there in order to help people navigate through this. And thank goodness I have surrounded myself with amazing people and like-minded, nutritionists and coaches who I highly respect and love that we are all working to put this proper message out in the world. Here's the irony of it. Most of us haven't been educated in the public school system, and I find that very interesting because we have had to do the research ourselves. We have had to figure it out. We've all been through the process of figuring out our own issues, figuring out food, and therefore have vetted the process, and that's how we can more aptly guide you. In fact, I listened to some nutritionist podcasts, and it's so interesting to hear them talk about if they were publicly trained in a public education system, that they post their academic experience had to go re-educate themselves to the correct approach, which is we need to decrease our carbohydrate consumption and we need to get more fats in our bodies. Now, in answer to your question, Claudia, are indulgence meals necessary for two purposes only? And this is a fantastic question. I think I put this in the book. I'm pretty sure I did, but I'll reiterate it here, which is for two types of people, okay? Number one, let's take an extreme athlete that I am pushing sub-optimal body fat levels, right? Someone who's really stripping off the body fat. We want to see veins. We want striations in the muscles. For this type of person, their body is literally eating themselves. We're preserving muscle tissue due to slower tapered caloric deficits, calorie tapering, etc. But at the same time, let's face it, the only way to get rid of body fat is less coming in than more is going out, right? You have to have a deficit. It's not the only part of the equation. There's 5 parts of the equation, which I have another podcast episode on called 5 levels of energy input and output. I've had more people have the lights come on about how this body composition and health thing works from that podcast than any other podcast I've ever recorded. That makes me very, very happy. So anyhow, so yes, those type of people will need a refeed to keep their bodies from shutting down and to keep the metabolism going, to help aid their body from thinking it's starving and just shutting down. And so that kind of ramps the metabolism. It tricks the body into continued progression. So, and if you really think about it, what is an indulgence meal? It's basically calorie cycling, right? So there is some definite benefits from that calorie cycling, okay? Now, the other type of person who needs an indulgence meal, and let's remember, in the Power Foods lifestyle, we have 2 different strategies for indulgence meals. And where do I talk about this? Which chapter? Let me go to my table of contents. Indulgence meals is chapter 13. So this is based on Gretchen Rubin, her research on abstainer personality versus moderator personality. I'll tell you, 70% of people I work with are abstainers who need to just say, I'm not bringing in cookies or treats or sweets or anything I'm trying to avoid because I can't control myself around it, so I need to go the indulgence meal route. Other people who are like, no, don't take that from me. I just need a little bit and I'll be fine. Those are moderators. It is healthier emotionally and mentally to gear and to ease yourself into a moderator strategy. It does take time. It took me 4 years and it's beautiful, and it's the coolest feeling to truly be able to have one cookie and not feel that emotional fear or attachment or obsession or numbing. How often do you use any of these carbohydrate-based foods, whether it's sweets or whether it's more succulent foods like potatoes or breads, or even, you guys, you can overeat on carbs by eating lentils and couscous and quinoa and all these quote-unquote healthy carbs. Yes, you get too much sugar in the body and you have a body that can't handle that. I'm sorry, but that is a problem. And that's why tier 1 of the Power Foods lifestyle is not the end all. Tier 1 is where, eat power foods. Good job. Most people, to make a real composition change, need to get to tier 2 or tier 3, where we get proper portions of those and proper strategy in place. So again, going back to this moderator and abstainer strategy, I have never seen an abstainer personality go more than 3 weeks without setting themselves up for a very hardcore binge. Now, let me tell you, this is very much linked to my other podcast called Power Your Life Today. In fact, I think this is a perfect time to tell you all about it.
As I work with individuals and groups on their nutrition and fitness optimization, I often find there are many obstacles lurking below the surface. Whether it's emotional, mental, or spiritual trials, I have found that mindset coaching is where I'm able to help people find solutions and move past these difficulties to begin making more progress. As I love all of my body buddies so much, I wanted to make this accessible to everyone, not just my one-on-one clients. Power Your Life Today is a mindset training YouTube show and podcast where I am going to help you build your mental discipline so you can power your life to one of value, service, and love. Head over to poweryourlifetoday.com to download your 5 power principles to help you move past any challenge in life today. Again, that's poweryourlifetoday.com.
And we're back, and we're talking about what type of people need to have indulgence meals. So we already talked about somebody who is really pushing their body to extreme caloric deficits, and the second type of person is somebody who they should not abstain from a binge, or they should not abstain from an indulgence meal because they will result in a binge. And what happens is every single person on this earth is going to have stressors. Every single person is going to deal with difficult things. Guess what? We're all human. We all have tough things, whether it's your finances, whether it's your family, your relationships, death, sickness, layoffs, whether it's just little things like depression, I didn't mean to say little things. That's not a little thing. If you deal with anxiety or depression or any perhaps mental health issues, perhaps you just don't have very good coping strategies for a very high-paced, high-expectation world. Perhaps you are sucked into social media. Perhaps you are, there's a million things. But what I'm saying is the suicide rates, the depression rates, the anxiety rates, all of these things are interrelated. I hope you get that it's all connected, and I hope you look at that in your own life. That is why I started Power Your Life Today, because I see too much in the fitness and nutrition world I'm in to avoid the fact that mental discipline is supreme. In fact, on which page? A healthy lifestyle is maintainable. I want to show you guys the diagram in the book. Can you guys see that? Those of you on the feed. What's the biggest part of this pyramid? It is 50% mental discipline, 30% nutrition, 20% fitness. That is on page 11 in chapter 1, a healthy lifestyle is maintainable. That means if we don't have a foundation of how we think, how we manage our emotions and life events and ourselves on a day-to-day basis, and people are like, how do you stay motivated? No, duh, because we learn coping strategies for our lives. And obviously I get fired up and passionate about this because I experience life. I am very human. And I get to work with so many people who experience life, and it frustrates me when people are blind to the realities that emotions and psychology and our nutrition and fitness choices are all interconnected, and they think they can just compartmentalize, and they're wrong. And I know all of you listening to this or watching this live are smarter than that, and I need you to truly think that there is much deeper questions to be asking ourselves, so I'm really glad you're here. I hope that answered your questions, Claudia, about the indulgence meals. I'd like to go on a little bit more about carbohydrates. You can hear all about it in part 2 of this podcast episode, Focus, Carbs 101 and Beyond. Come join me in episode number 156 as we continue the conversation on carbohydrates.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on iTunes. You can learn more about Body Buddies and Power Foods Lifestyle by going to www.body-buddies.com, BODY-BUDDIES.com, and powerfoodslifestyle.com. That's www.powerfoodslifestyle.com.
Information in this episode is provided for informational purposes and is not meant to substitute the advice provided by your own physician or other medical professional. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.